holiday pack. This episode 11. This will probably be the last time you guys hear us before 2021. So it's that special one right here. It's a hell of a 2020 too on top of that.
New Year's edition, huh?
Yeah, we ain't gonna start it on that note because you started reflecting on 2020 right now. And that'll take you to a whole nother space. You guys hear me, my voice may be a little different today, but this is a big week for us. This was a big week for us heading into this. Before we had our break, we had a big winter camp. In the last couple episodes, you heard me with a little raspy voice. And I've been screaming at kids and I've been screaming at coach because I've been getting W's. He's been cheating me out of stuff, but the camp was great. Kids are amazing, man. And for it to be our first one, we cannot wait until the next one. But, let's just check in on the regular. Like, OG, how you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm good. Other than the fact that you're assassinating my character over there. How am I cheating you? Or how am I attempting to cheat?
Yeah.
Let's clear this up.
First of all, whenever somebody starts something off with assassinating my character, you know they full of it. Like, why do you even have to use those words? Why that combination of words come out?
Because that's how I feel right now. And like when you say certain things like that, that goes right to my heart. I look at you as family, and you want to talk about me like that in front of all the masses?
I hope your boys
and
hear
then
this.
Ethan is sitting here co-signing that, and I don't appreciate that either.
Charmin.
Y'all up in my crib right now.
Charmin. I hope your boys hear this. All of them from Coppin, all of them that you played in Argentina with, Air Germany with, all of them. I hope they hear. You hear this? This is Jules the jeweler for you guys. This is your JK. And I know they know. I know they probably listening to it like, dang, the young boy got to handle that right now.
Listen, anybody that knows me right now is saying, if JK is speaking on this, it's something serious. That somebody somewhere in his close proximity is saying something that is not factual. So he's just stepping up to the plate and addressing it. Man, and all I'm saying to you is yes. I'll be the first to admit it. If you're a hooper, you have good days, you have bad days. Sometimes you have good weeks, you have bad weeks. I've been having a string of bad weeks in terms of our bump, but it ain't on me. I've been doing my thing, and I hate to say this because it's a team sport, but we all know, Amir, certain people you put your money on, they just don't come ready to play.
Man.
And Coach Ryan has been doing his thing. I never take away credit when credit is due. But I never try to cheat you. I win, I lose fair and square.
I purposely didn't bring this up before, but we're going to head into the new year on a new slate. You're going to have a new chance. You have new opportunities. You know what I'm saying? You're going to come back in, recharge, ready to go. So I'm going to let you have that, But how you feeling other than that,
I'm good, man. You talked about we got our winter break camp, all sports camp, and the kids are coming each day. They're having a great time. We're having a good time, and it's been a success. It's our first camp ever here in Dubai, and I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Right. And by the time you guys hear this one right here, it'll be a week or so after the camp. But we know we're going to talk about this a lot. Like, camp was great. You guys will see footage, and there'll be another one coming again after that. But welcome to Bridgin the Gap podcast. All right, this is episode 11, part of the holiday pack. I'm your host, Ryan Yates, with my co-host, my OG, Julian King, and we have our young contributor, Ethan, who just finished his college pretty much. Everything's a finito. And now I'm coming up on the anniversary. It's almost exactly a year and some change, maybe 2 years since I've been done with school. And, I did the grad school route. So I understand, what type of celebration is in line for our guy right now. So I'll say congrats, but I'll also say, man, we had a long way to go. I believe in you, champ. I believe in you, though.
Hey, congrats, E, man. Congrats, man. You've been through a lot. It's a major accomplishment. You know, what you gonna do to celebrate?
You can't hear him, Coach. We're not giving him a mic. He don't get a mic.
Oh,
but
right. He
no.
hasn't moved. He
No.
doesn't deserve a mic yet.
No,
Okay.
he might not ever get a mic though.
Okay.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
He might start sweating.
Okay.
You know, you never know. You know, he said he goes to the desert because you be screaming at him too much.
I give you a word of advice. This is how you celebrate, especially a major accomplishment like that. Don't do anything outlandish. You get a couple good friends. You guys go out, get a good meal, have a really nice dinner, 1 or 2 drinks, responsibly, everybody out there.
Take a Korean.
And then you guys get a chance to sit down and just talk about your experiences together and what you guys are going to do next in life, man. That's it. That's how you celebrate.
Coach, you going to have a New Year's resolution?
Yeah, my New Year's resolution is one I've been working on for about the past 20 years. I will, from this day on, as I have gone into the second stages of my life, I am here to say I will try my best to stay consistent in watching my language. You heard it from me right now. Going into 2021, I will curb the language that I use.
No comment. That's all I'm gonna say. No comment. That's it, man. You one of those? How you had the same New Year's resolution for 20 years?
Hey, I'm a work in progress.
All right, what else you got? That's the only one you gonna have?
That's it, man. I'm focusing on one. I gotta. Hey, listen, one thing at a time.
Everything else solid. He said he gonna work on his language. Man, that ain't changing. That ain't changing. It is what it is. That is funny. I don't have any, man. I feel like I don't have any. I always do the same thing. Like I'm always progressively working on something all the time. You know it. I talk your head off every day about some stuff that I'm trying to do, work through. And I think Coach always gets on me because I say things like the universe and all these other things. And he was like, man, this kid over here is going crazy. I don't believe in Aquarius, Pisces signs and all that. I don't care about none of that other stuff. But, I get a little spiritual.
A lot. A lot.
I believe it, though. I believe it in my soul.
It's one thing to believe in yourself. It's one thing to believe in some things that people have told you to be true over the years. And you get a chance to research things on your own, experience things on your own, and realize that sometimes people are just telling you things to make you feel good in the moment.
Yeah, they do. That's for sure. That's why I do my own research and do my own thing. So that is one thing that, my OGs, I always appreciate the fact that they reiterate that. Shout out to Unc, shout out to Mom, shout out to Aunt Lisa, shout out to Coach King. Always made sure, look, think for yourself. Nobody else going to do it. But shout out to everybody else out there that does have New Year resolutions. We hope you stick to them. We hope those are transformative. We hope they make some type of positive change in your life. Work on them all the time, though. Well, what did you used to tell your kids? Because you used to teach and all that other stuff. What was that? Matter of fact, what was that conversation like in the locker room that weekend before, like Christmas? In college, in high school, you get like a whole week off, like Christmas and stuff, depending on where you at. And then in the pros, when you're coaching, you got to give them that practice off. That practice after New Year's Day got to be off for sure. What's that conversation like?
That conversation is, of course, it's on a more mature level, but depending on the type of team that you have and the type of coach you are, more real level. And for me, in the situations I was in, I'm a real direct person. I'm not going to beat around the bush. And I used to, the number one thing is don't get arrested. Go out, have your fun. You're in a foreign territory. As many people that cheer for you, there's a lot of people that resent you being here. They're jealous of you, and they're looking for any opportunity to catch you in a uncomfortable situation. And, just make sure you watch yourself. Have as much fun as you can responsibly. And remember that it's not just yourself, your team, but your career, your livelihood. And there's more, there's more jeopardy here.
You speak on that interesting thing that you talked about, jealousy. Right. One thing I've noticed here, whenever somebody gives you a compliment, you or they say, mashallah, just to make sure that, regardless of whatever their intentions are, it doesn't get to you. But like, when you talk about how do you navigate that from your generation, how you guys did things? Because the way you guys deal with, emotional things, or the way you guys deal with interactions with people that are negative and just different because of the way times were and all those things. But how did you navigate those waters?
Well, our time was a little, how can I say, more rigid.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have an opportunity to, how can I say, let the tears flow or show any signs of emotion or weakness, so to speak, as some people would view it. And so there was a little more influence in terms of people trying to be more macho.
Mm-hmm.
Just a societal issue that we had, and not to say that it was right, not to say that it was wrong, because that is my generation.
Yeah.
But I will appreciate that guys now show their sensitive side a little bit more. I do appreciate that. Sometimes a little too much, but it's just the one thing I've always been myself.
Yeah.
And I can't speak on, and I don't want to try to even influence anybody else to be the way I was. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
And just let it go.
Yeah. How have you noticed that though, to where you're talking about things being a bit more emotional, and just plainly simple, like you're allowed to be more human,
right?
Like how did you progress to that space, or were you already in that space to where you knew you could show your emotions and not have an issue, or did you have to like work through and go through some things to where anger take over sometimes when you could have just been able to say, "Man, I'm hurting right now,"
Like anything, you have to grow into it.
Yeah.
With years, I'm not going to say that I was ready to go at age 25 or 26, whatever, for adulthood. A lot of things I had to grow into, and I didn't get to a certain point until I was maybe in my mid to late 30s.
Yeah.
Where I understood that it's okay for a very macho, strong, masculine, physical male to cry, or show emotion or show vulnerability, and realizing that that's all a part of the humanistic side of who you are, and it just shows that you care about certain things.
Yeah.
If you care about something a lot, you're going to be emotional about it.
Yeah. And I mean, emotions make you human. Like, if you don't, Coach and I both have interesting backgrounds, right? Where we worked in mental health hospitals, or mental health arenas, to where we worked with kids that, for me, they were dual diagnosed, so they had an IQ below 75, and then they might have had a behavior disorder and schizophrenia or wherever else. And you notice that behind their actions, they didn't have any emotion related to it, which is why they had to be separated from society. A lot of those things were trauma-based and all those other different type of things. But for me, seeing that stuff, let me know that because I feel what I'm feeling, it's okay, but I gotta embrace that stuff, Yeah.
Those experiences were great. Of course, they were very challenging at times.
Extremely.
But those are experiences that the majority of people around the world don't get a chance to see, feel, hear, and be around, and they have no idea. And so we look at those individuals that you're talking about in a different light, and we kind of condemn them.
Yeah.
It's not always their fault, and we have to sometimes check ourselves and be more understanding. And again, that comes with time, experience, and age.
Yeah.
And and some of the things you talked about, that I immediately went back to situations I've been in, and my heart goes out to some of those people that I've worked with, and realize that I'm blessed.
Yeah.
And have to take it day by day and say, you know what? No matter what has come my way the day before, the next day won't be as bad as someone else's.
Right. And that type of those type of experiences, because I don't think things happen by chance. Not all the time. So like those type of experiences to put us in this place now to where we can deal with the nuances of being in a completely different country and dealing with kids that are completely different, who need a different type of support. And we can give them that type of support. And we fight through those tough days that they have, knowing that they're just kids. Like they're just kids. They need you still. Like your one reaction to them when they're having a bad day might be something they remember the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No matter what this kid's financial background is, or their family structure at home, or the country they're living in, whatever, kids are kids.
Mm-hmm.
They need adult guidance at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And, some are a little more mature than others, but, the one thing you would like to do is be the same way to each kid as best as possible, and allow them to be kids and know that, hey, we're all the same.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that it's the little things, right? Whether we make $1 million from doing this, or we just make $2,000 from doing this thing, we know that every day that we talk to one of these kids, that it's important for us to be a positive adult influence in their life.
Hold up, Slim. You're right. We need to do this, and this is something we would do naturally. But we need to make $1 million. I'm deep in the game.
Yeah,
and I need to see some lottery tickets come through.
I mean, I got a plan. If you're ready to follow, follow my half, I follow your half, and we get it together. We'll make it work. But regardless of what's shake and what don't shake, we know the foundation gonna still be the same.
Well, it's gotta shake. Your half is younger than my half. My half needs to get it soon.
We're gonna make something shake. But still, like I said, regardless, I know Coach, because I've seen Coach, and I've seen Coach have to be in some different situations in just my young age. But I know that those kids are always going to have a positive influence in their life, at any point. And I think, like, when we talk about community, because that's what basketball has always been for us, is about being a community, right? Because everybody can't become a professional athlete. Everybody can't be, the headline player. But because when you play basketball, when you leave that thing, the little things should matter to you from now on, because you understand the importance of it, right? And how it can change your life, right?
Anything that you do, it doesn't have to be just basketball, but whatever sports you fall in love with and you dedicate your free time to, is something that is going to hone your skills for life. People don't understand this, that the most successful people in life, 9 times out of 10 were involved in athletics at some point in time. And as you can see, when they reach a certain status in terms of business or whatever it is that they're successful at, it always comes back to athletics, whether they can participate in it in terms of being a player, owner, manager. They just want to be involved in athletics because there's so many things involved that help round you into a better person.
Absolutely. And, right now I'm like in the midst of that project, right? To where, before people see the Tesla, before they see the final product of the Tesla, they had to go through those, beginning stages of, testing the project, the pilot. And I feel it in my bones that I'm in the beginning stages of something, that I've been thinking of building, and you've been helping me manifest and put together. And God willing, inshallah, that it happens. We'll get to a space where we can talk about that more, because that's one of the biggest things about why we do what we do. Basketball, the little things, the things that you learn, it puts you in a whole different space, right? So like you tell people all the time that, Coach Ryan has a lot going on. Coach Ryan has a lot of other things pushing. Like people ask me, could you have played pro, or could you have done some of those other different things? And I'll say, I had a chance to do that. Didn't want to make that commitment. Didn't want to make it because My OGs gave me a different level of guidance and pushed me towards what my gifts are. So now I'm pushing to see, make those things come to fruition so people can see it. So we can talk about the fact that, basketball takes you different lanes and it takes you different places. But if you can adjust in the game, you can adjust in life, because basketball is the greatest metaphor for life.
Right. You had a chance to play professionally, and you had a chance to further your education in order to get an advanced degree that some people only dream of, which is, you look at the flip side of it, being a professional athlete, people dream about that every day. So you had an opportunity to pick between the best of both worlds. And you chose one route that, based on the facts that Coach Rowland, myself, your mom, and others talked to you about. And personally, I think you made the right decision, because I know you are a basketball lifer. If you weren't a basketball lifer, you wouldn't be in the business of basketball right now. And the time, the dedication, and sacrifice needed in order to be a professional basketball player would have been unrewarding for what you would put into it, I think. Because you had already sacrificed so much in terms of going through college, in addition to that, prep school, dealing with health issues, whatever. You'd already given so much back to the game. Now it's time for the game to give something back to you. Because the game knows that as long as there's life in your body, you're going to give back to the game and give back to the kids. So it worked out for the best. So don't ever feel like there's any regrets.
No, absolutely. And I'll say this to those young people that are listening. Basketball is the reason why I had the opportunity to make a decision between grad school and pro, right? Like, in the grad school, thanks for my university, was paid for from them, right? And I was there and I was carrying many different roles on campus. And that was because of the presence I had as a basketball player, because that comes with a different level of expectation as a leader in the community. Right. So again, it's different life lessons. It's all about the perspective, and it's the little things that you got to take into consideration. Right. But what gets you there, right? What gets you to those spaces as a young guy, right? Because we talk about bridging the gap. I don't get to where I am mentally unless I listen to my OGs, unless I listen to my mom. You don't listen to your mom like you should all the time. All right.
Well, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
You hear somebody's voice every day, 24/7, you tend to block it out sometimes. Not that you don't care, it's just a natural instinct to become numb to it because you hear it so often. But the same thing that person is telling you every day, you can hear it from someone new and think that it's from the Holy Grail. And you start to take everything that they say and you live by it. And then the person that's been telling you stuff every day is looking like, wow, I've been telling you stuff for 3 years and you never listen. Somebody coming into your life, all of a sudden, now you want to listen. But that's typical for everybody.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And like I said, I always give my mom credit for this, for knowing that I won't go listen sometimes. And pointing me to the right directions to people to listen to, right? And so, like I say, a presence, right? It's something you need in your life outside of just your family at times. Because again, community is important. Like people always say, it takes a village to raise a kid, and I think that's one of the reasons why. Because that same voice you hear for your whole life, it gets tiring. You get tired of hearing it. You just need a new spice.
Right.
So sometimes you need, we hear it all the time. Parents would say, look, so-and-so wasn't listening to this week, had some problems in school. Can you just, have a little extra to say to them today? And they listen, and they come back the next week and like, well, let's get into it. But that's when I get into the idea of like the presence of a coach. Right. And we take the presence of a coach into several different categories, right? Like you talk about the presence of a coach in practice, the presence of a coach on the sidelines in the gym, and then you talk about the presence of a coach just in the lives of their players, right? Like, you speak to that.
You know, there's so many different levels to being a coach. And it all starts with, well, they're all intertwined, whether it be middle school, high school, college, or professional. You know, we kind of touched on this before. If you're a coach, no matter how good you are with the X's and O's, no matter how much experience you have, if you're not willing and able to connect with each of your players on some type of level outside of basketball, you limit the success you will have on the court with basketball. You have to be willing to, I hate to say it, sacrifice a little bit of your family life in order to help someone else have an opportunity to have a successful life beyond your team. Because what you say to a player, a lot of times, it can fall upon deaf ears if you're not sincere and consistent with it. But we know that if you are willing to go the extra mile and you honestly give 110% to your players, they know.
Yeah.
That's one thing about players. They know who's full of it, who's not. Mm-hmm. Whether you're the best coach at personnel management, X's and O's, certain game situations, they know who they can trust. And if your players can't trust you, they can't rely on you, in the clutch, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah, and that's on and off the court, right? But then when you talk about that, and then you talk about, because I hear you say it, and I watch people in the gym, but having a presence on the court or in practice, like a physical presence. Sometimes people don't talk about that, but right. A physical presence is important too, right?
Of course. And this is not to negate anybody that has been a coach and been very successful, because there's been a lot of them that may not have the physical presence that we assume a basketball coach would have. Because when you think of a physical presence, especially if you're African American being in the United States, the first person you think of is Big John.
Big John Thompson.
John Thompson, 6'10", with a towel over his shoulder, looking at you with a scowl on his face, and probably saying some choice words to you during a game for something that you may have made a mistake in, maybe not.
Yeah, rest in peace, Big John.
Yep, R.I.P. But all coaches aren't like that. I played for John Chaney, one of the best coaches of all time, Hall of Famer. He was nowhere near 6'10". Mm-hmm. But his presence was 6'10".
Right.
When you walk into the facility.
Hold on. What does that mean though? Because we on this side of the world, they call it the eastern side of the world. They hear that. What does it mean for a presence to be 6'10"?
His presence meaning that no matter where he was, he could captivate an audience. Mm-hmm. Whether it be other coaches, parents, players, he could always get your attention and keep you motivated and keep you engaged for a lengthy period of time. And listening to him, watching him demonstrate certain things, you could just get the sense that he's someone who has dedicated his life to the game of basketball, to the progression of young men into adulthood. And you can just feel it in the room. You can feel it, you can hear it in his voice. And you just know that this is someone that can guide you in the right direction.
Yeah,
and that's just not him.
Yeah.
We talked about Big John. Big John had the physical presence that you could see.
Yeah.
But he also had the other characteristics that a John Chaney had. Yeah. And they were all, you think about it, they were all in that same era.
Yeah.
Cut from the same cloth. Just one happened to be a different position, a little taller. One was a little shorter. One was a guard, one was a big man. So if you were an African American growing up in that era like I was, we kind of had the best of both worlds, from leadership perspective in terms of game of basketball.
And sometimes when I think about presence, because when you talk about those shorter guys, right? Because sometimes you're a shorter guy and you're talking to a bunch of 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" guys. We got to get together. I think of a big voice,
right?
Like a Tom Izzo,
right?
You know, like I think like talking about current day, like a Buzz Williams, and those type of guys who their voice is bigger than their height, and then you can feel that energy coming out of their voice, and then they matching that every day. But you know, I think I've been able to watch a lot of those from the sidelines. I've been able to meet Big John one time, two times, and like you said, that presence is felt regardless of what's going on, right? And that's special to be around.
Knowing that those guys were legendary coaches is one thing, and you know they're walking into the building, and if you're a hooper, you ultimately give them their respect. But as soon as they open their mouth and get a chance to speak to you, you realize that they can talk to you outside of basketball about ordinary things. And that's what makes them even more special.
That's big, though, because I was just about to ask you, like, you've been around Chaney, and we'll talk about more of those legendary coaches soon, but that's a guy that's legendary for many, many reasons, but what makes that coach have that type of presence, right? And you know, you have a strong presence of your own. Coach Thomas has one. You know, a lot of coaches I've been around have strong presences there. But from what you know, what makes you have that type of energy as you walk?
One, because you're not just delegated to one thing, one avenue. You know, you're a legendary coach and you approach basketball a certain way. That means you're probably aggressive. In a positive manner. But you know what? That probably means you're aggressive in a positive manner to every aspect in life. And so if you approach every aspect of life the way you approach basketball, and you've been around the game of basketball for 20, 30 years, well, you can imagine how you approach life. So if you're passionate about everything you do in life, that's going to transcend who you are into the people that you're leading.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because when I think about coaching, right, I think that's one of the biggest things too. Like I watch how players react to their coaches. Right, if a coach is getting on them, and a kid is just staring them in the eyes, just responding, yes, let's go. And you can see in the coach's eye they're pissed off, and there's a lot of anger there, right? But the kid is just still locked in. I'm like, man, that's a kid that'll run through a wall for that guy, right? And that's just a different energy. Like when you feel that as a player, that type of trust, like you want to feel that trust in any relationship, right?
And how do you feel that trust? How do you build that? Because that player has been with that coach over a certain period of time, and they've seen the consistency in it. It's not a coach who is going to come through Monday through Wednesday and be a certain way and be soft-spoken, real articulate, and be in one certain monotone. But then all of a sudden you make a mistake when the lights are on during a game, that coach just blows up. So that player is thinking like, well, dang, you're changing up on me now. So you have to show some consistency. And so either you're going to be hard on your players all the time and push them. And so those players understand that, that's just the way coach is. He's only trying to bring out the best in us. And then you understand that, you know what? That coach who's on my butt all the time and trying to bring out the best in us only once was in my best interest. And I've been around that coach, and we've talked about other things. We've discussed other things. And that coach has been there for me, for my team. And he's been the same way each time.
Right. Well, I just thought presence is currency. Right. You talk about that consistency and you having a strong presence, and you having a kid that's been with you for 2 years, and he's talking to another kid who just got there in 2 months, and he's struggling, and the kid's telling you why you're not around. He's telling him, look, coach got you. It's just the way he is, but I promise you, he got you. That's a form of currency, right? You can count on that. That's valuable. That's going to push you somewhere. So, I appreciate that. especially as you said, from those strong black figures that we had as coaches. But let's talk about those legendary coaches. We don't. It's a different era right now, and if we don't talk about some of those past legends and those moments in history for basketball that got us to where we are right now, they may be forgotten, right?
I'm an older guy, so I'm always going to get flack for trying to shed light on the legendary coaches that I looked up to.
No, we're bridging the gap here, baby.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
I'm not saying on this platform, I'm just saying in general. But what a lot of people don't know, the younger generation don't realize that the multi-million-dollar salaries that are made today were not made 15, 20 years ago from guys who dedicated their entire lives to basketball, to the growth of boys to young men into adulthood. And the amount of responsibility has lessened recently, but yet the money has gone up. And so some people forget about the legendary coaches who started all this. Like you said, we wouldn't be where we are today without the legendary coaches that we had in the past that not only would sacrifice family time from their spouses, from their kids, in order to run a class act program for less money. But those guys had multiple responsibilities that people wouldn't even believe today. There's no way that you can be a Division I college coach today and have to wash uniforms. Mm-hmm. That's something that some of the legendary coaches that are in the Hall of Fame today, some are still with us. The ones that aren't, may they rest in peace. We love you. But those guys had to go above and beyond to help basketball grow to where it is today.
Yeah. And I mentioned earlier about basketball being a culture, right? And when we think about what we're doing here, what you've done as you coached me, what I've ever been able to do when I decided to help somebody else, I always did those extra things, right? Unconsciously, just because the coaches that were around me and the individuals that were around me did extra. I remember hearing about that story with John Thompson when he went to make sure that, AI was coming to Georgetown and he was getting off of that sentence. Or when he went and, this is a DC story, but when he went and talked to Rayful Edmond about staying away from Alonzo Mourning. Like I remember hearing all those different type of stories and seeing people having to drive hours and hours to pick people up. So when we do what we do now, when we talk about we have to build a basketball culture, it's always out of respect for what they did.
Right.
Right? It's always out of respect, whether we knew it or not. It was out of respect for what John Thompson did, right? What Chaney did. You know what I'm saying? What Anderson did, what Nolan Richardson did, yeah. What all of those guys did before us to make sure we can go here. We make sure that, look, if anybody comes across us, and these are lessons I've got from you and my uncle, they're going to understand that it's more than just basketball. It's so much more.
Right. Everything with those guys, because it wasn't about the money, mm-hmm. They took everything personally because it was about their time and sacrifice mm-hmm. and their passion for the game. And that's something that I'm not saying all current coaches are this way, but we all know that the more money you make, the more business-like it is, and the more you become distant from the actual essence of what it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. And I think that there is a balance with that, right? Because I think when it gets to that space, it's some greed involved, right? Some people don't understand those things, which is why I feel like we're in a great space here to where we can have that balance all together and make, both sides of that coin work for us. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is about the relationships with the people.
Right.
Because all those guys are not legends because of how much money they make. Like their spirit lives on and their right. effect lives on right. because of what they did and how they touch people.
Right.
Yeah.
in relation to what we're doing here, I want everybody to know we are definitely not here just for the money.
Man, no, not at all.
Not at all.
Not
If
at
that
all.
were the case, we wouldn't be on this podcast right now.
Mm-hmm.
We are here because we love the game of basketball. We want to help people enjoy the game of basketball, grow in the game of basketball, in addition to starting a business. And if we're not here for those reasons, then the business will ultimately fail.
Yes.
Whether it be year 1 or year 5,
Mm-hmm.
it will fail if you're here for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely. And that's with everything. That's the whole point of us doing what we do too, because we can talk to these kids differently. We have kids that are drummers, they're swimmers, they're kids that want to build engines for cars. You know, they want to do a whole bunch of different things. They may not be world-class athletes, but like we say, that doesn't matter. All right, first of all, you're a kid, so we don't know what you're going to grow into. So, but the purpose is, teaching you the lessons that we learn so that you can push into whatever industry that you want to push into.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to handcuff you to just basketball.
Mm-hmm.
If you have other interests, we want to tell you, experience those interests as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, you will decide later on at your own pace what is most important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we want to do is we just want to make sure we instill a work ethic, a value system, improve your skills, and you have some fun. That's it.
And some accountability.
There's no point in doing anything.
Yeah, and some accountability in there too. But when we talk about those things you just listed off, it's everything that we've got from those legendary coaches. Right? But we've talked about those legendary coaches, but let's name them. And I'll let you do the naming because I'm still the young guy over here.
You know them. You're not that young.
Yeah. I know a few, but you got the experience,
Well, as a kid growing up, one of the best conferences in college basketball was the Big East, of course.
Yes.
And we talked about John Thompson because that's Georgetown. That's right in the area in which we live, where you were born in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to be a transplant there. And so, we talk about him. We talk about Rolly Massimino at Villanova.
Mm.
We talk about Louis Carnesecca at St. John's. P.J. Carlesimo at Seton Hall. And Jim Calhoun at Connecticut.
Yeah, Boeheim.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so sorry, Boeheim. No disrespect. Mm-hmm. Jim Boeheim, who's still coaching, by the way, at Syracuse.
Yeah.
Those were long-tenured coaches in the Big East that had to face each other on a nightly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some moments where those guys had some physical altercations, but they still respected each other and wanted to do what's best for the kids and the league.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the Big East became one of the best leagues in the country. And those guys had been there for many, many years. But things like that just don't happen as often today because of the money involved.
Well, and there's some more names to add to that list. And I want to say this one in particular because my uncle made sure he told me, this is one of those guys. Leonard Hamilton.
Oh, still coaching, though.
Still coaching. He's maybe in his 70s or something like that. But Leonard Hamilton is one of those guys that he holds it down for the team. And I know Al Skinner used to be at Boston College. Right. And
shout out to Al Skinner. Boston College has never been the same.
Never. Not even close, right? And then you got guys in other conferences like Nolan Richardson, right?
SEC.
Transformative, the way he had Arkansas going, that level of play. People talk about the little run that Shaka had at VCU with Havoc.
Right.
Had nothing on what Arkansas was running, right?
Right. Jerry Tarkanian at UNLV.
Yeah, the towel over the shoulder, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lute Olson at Arizona. We talked about John Chaney at Temple. I mean, there's so many great college coaches that were at one or two universities for a long period of time because of the way they went about the game.
Mm-hmm.
But money wasn't as much as a factor then for these guys.
Let's really make that statement because, when you talk about tenure at coaches, when you talk about those legendary coaches, those coaches were synonymous with those universities. When I thought John Thompson, I thought Georgetown.
Right.
When I thought Syracuse, I was thinking Jim Boeheim.
Right.
Calhoun, UConn, Mike Anderson, Arkansas,
Right.
Lou Olson, Arizona. All of those guys, it was kind of like Coach K now.
Right.
Calipari now. Right. Whenever you think about those schools, sometimes it's the coaches that have the allure to drag them in there.
Right.
It's like, this is why I'm coming. But right now, besides Calipari and Coach K and Roy Williams, of course, I'm a UNC guy, so I got to show out for the love there. But there aren't many coaches that really have that long-standing, place where they are to where they can be that type of legendary coach.
We don't want to forget Tom Izzo from Michigan State.
Absolutely. Sorry, Tom Izzo.
We don't want to forget Jay Wright at Villanova. By the way, everybody in the Philadelphia area, for all of you guys that were complaining about Jay Wright before the championship, about he couldn't get it done, he had a plan, everybody, just so you guys know. And winning a championship is not that easy. But he came through finally, and he won 2. So leave him alone, let him do his thing, and enjoy your program.
Listen, I'm a little salty you brought that up because I am a UNC guy, and I am from the DMV, so there's conflicting feelings there with the way Chris Jenkins ended us. That was a tough time, but like you said, Jay Wright is a staple.
Right.
Yeah, he is a staple. But you talk about those long-standing coaches, it's like 5 of them.
Right.
Like 5 of them.
Yeah, there's across the United States, who's the coach of Gonzaga? Mark Few?
Yes.
He's one.
That's a special situation, too.
It is a special
situation. That's very special.
Sure.
That's a small school.
Greg McDermott was at Wichita State, but now we see that certain things have come to light. So now he may not be thrust into that category of long tenured coaches. But there's so much involved with someone being at one university for a long period of time because you got to play by the rules.
Bobby Knight didn't play by the rules.
That was a time long ago. Before
we couldn't talk about legendary coaches, and I couldn't find a way to throw Bobby Knight in there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's for sure.
Sure. Bob Huggins is still coaching. Think about that. But we all know Bob comes to the game in a sweatsuit.
He does his thing. That's all I'm going to say. West Virginia is a perfect place.
Yeah. Be yourself.
Be yourself, Huggy. Be yourself, man.
With the legendary coaches of the past, after some of the current guys, Bill Self, Coach K, and those guys, retire, we may be heading into an era where a major Division I college coach may not be in one spot more than 5-6 years.
It's going to look like the NBA, right?
Correct.
We also got to shout out Rick Pitino.
Rick Pitino, he's got 9 lives. He's got 9 lives.
Rick Pitino is that guy. But when I do think about that, that lets me know, that kind of hints to me where college is going to go, college basketball is going to go. Because that's that time in those lives, basketball as a business, we'll talk about that stuff, as we move forward. But like you said, the money is different now. So basketball as a business kind of has people saying, all right, I'm going to go to these mid-major schools. I'm going to win here. And I know me winning here, it'll have some high Power 5 schools knocking on my door so I can get that $10 million, $12 million payday, right? So that loses the essence of those things. Because you tell me, was Georgetown a powerhouse before Thompson got there?
Not even close.
Like, were any of those schools powerhouses before somebody got there?
Not even close.
But that consistency did it different, right?
The consistency, the work ethic, and the time. The expectations were different. If you're allowed to implement your philosophy and you have time to do it, then, of course, it's going to get to a point where if you're successful, you're synonymous with the university.
Right.
And that's what we had. Now, with the more money, which the coaches that put in the time, they deserve it. But the expectations are unrealistic for a lot of schools.
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of turnover in certain schools, and people wonder why can't this school win? Well, if you have a new coach every 4 or 5 years, it's going to be impossible.
That's important. And again, when you pay somebody that much money, then you got an expectation for something to go quick, right?
Yep.
Right.
Correct.
And then, those things are always lead to more problems. You pay my coach $12-15 million a year, and he doing all this he can to get me. Is he the value piece, or is it me as the player? And then you don't give me a piece of that pie, not even a little bit, right? So then it just trickles down into all that. But you know who I thought was going to be one of those, coaches that get into the mix of Izzo and Coach K? Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens and Butler.
With the way he had Butler moving, I was like, man, I remember I was watching that Duke Butler championship game with Gordon Hayward and them. I was like, man, coach, you think I can play there? Right? Like, this is the Brad Stevens things, but he ended up leaving. So now it's like,
Well, let me say this. Brad Stevens is a guy, he probably would not have left Butler or left college basketball if there wasn't a great opportunity presented to him. Danny Ainge is not calling you unless this is something really, really sweet.
Right.
And so he knew that Brad Stevens was a young, up-and-coming coach that could be a Boston Celtics fixture for a long time. And so I'm sure when he called, he made Coach Stevens a
offer he couldn't refuse.
I mean, there's just no way, because we've seen a lot of college coaches go to the pros and have limited success.
Man, when people tell me Kyler Perry went to the pros, I'm like, you sure?
He actually did okay.
Yeah, it happened so quick, though.
It was quick.
And Pitino.
It was quick. Now, Pitino, it was a different story. He learned the hard way that you can't go to the NBA 82-game season, 48-minute games with professional athletes, and you want to pick up 94 feet. That's not happening.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing too, right? But we haven't even talked about that, about those long-standing coaches. And what does keep them there is a system, right?
Right. Their system. Yeah. You don't become synonymous with the school and being successful if you don't have your system in place. Meaning that any player that walks through those doors, they have to be willing to adapt to your system.
They come in there for that, right?
Correct. Your system is what got you to where you are, so you believe in it. You're passionate about it, and you know it. You only teach what you know.
And for those that don't understand, because when we talk about system, for many people, that's like what we're talking about. We're talking about computers. When we're talking about, so in layman terms, for those who aren't, they don't understand the basketball lingo to that extent. When you say a coach has his system, what exactly does that look like? Let's say John Thompson. What does that system look like for him during his reign?
John Thompson was up in your face defense. He always loved to have a big man. Before Iverson, if you think about it, he was big man dominated.
It was Mutombo, Ewing, Mourning.
Correct.
3 Hall of Famers.
Three Hall of Famers. And many more guys after them that weren't Hall of Famers, but were professional players. They were successful college players. Iverson kind of changed the way Big John coached, because he saw something special in Iverson and knew that was a moment in time where him being part of the Black Coaches Association, he stepped up and saved his life.
Yeah. And
I'm thankful for him for that, because I have many great memories of watching Allen Iverson play.
Man. Iverson, man. We're going to save that. We're going to bookmark that. Okay, we're going to add that to the topic list and come back. Because Iverson, he deserves a podcast of his own. We'll talk about that.
What's the series we have where we talk about unsung heroes?
Yeah, that's
AI
coming.
needs to be on there.
You dropping the jewels before it happened, man.
Come on, man.
I didn't even present that yet. But yeah, for sure. AI gets his.
I got excited.
You see how excited? That's what AI do to you, though. But when we talk about that, all right, and just for comparison purpose, you say for John Thompson, kid coming out of school. If it's a big man, if it's AD right now, AD coming out of school in the 80s, 85, he going to Georgetown because he know when he leave Georgetown, he going to be one of the best bigs ever, right? He going to be featured. He going to leave there tough. He going to be strong defensively. He going to be ready to go, right? But on the flip side, Chaney, right? What does Chaney's system look like? What type of people come into his system and what makes his playing style attractive?
Really good guard play. 1, 2, and 3, small forward, shooting guard, point guard, interchangeable, not turning the ball over, being efficient, being hard-nosed, being high IQ. That's why I had to get up out of there. I wasn't high IQ at the time.
Honesty. Coach said he's an honest guy.
And so John Chaney he wanted everybody to play the way he played, the way he was taught. And that's...
Where did he play at?
Coach played, I can't remember the name of the school he played for, but he did play in the old professionally, I can't remember the name, but he was a professional player with some of the greats back in the day. But of course, we all come to a certain point in our careers where we say, we got to make a decision. Do I take care of my family? Do I continue my pursuit of my dream? But once you have a family, it's no longer your dream, it's our dream.
Oh, true.
But going to Temple, which did develop big men, Donald Hodge, we talk about Mark Strickland, guys who did have an opportunity to play in the NBA. Oh, man, what's my man's name? Perry. Oh, my goodness, I can't remember his name. That's how old I am, guys. And so there were a lot of good players that came out of Temple that were not heralded as much coming out of high school, but by the time they left Temple, they were solid professional players just from the work that Coach would put in with you. Tim Perry, my goodness. Tim, do not kill me next time you see me. My bad. It's been a while.
Man, when you talk about that, I immediately think about Aaron McKee, 6th Man of the Year, right? On that Philadelphia 76ers team that goes to the finals. I'm a Laker guy, so I remember every bit of that. And I'm like, when I hear those stories of how, first of all, how Philadelphia as a city, right? And Temple as a school, like Chaney just matched that whole mantra. Like Chaney just fit in with that. Right. So did Big John. He just fit in with the Chocolate City.
Right.
That was his thing. But like you said, when you go to there, that's a whole different system, right? You guys playing against each other, and then you go from Temple to Georgetown, and then you say Boeheim, right? When you step into a Boeheim system, what does that look like?
It's going to be 2-3 zone. Not when he first started, but as he began to get a little more leeway in terms of just doing things his way, he decided that we're going to go to 2-3 zone, and I'm going to have a whole bunch of length and athletes up front, and we're going to close the space down. We're going to force you to shoot tough perimeter shots, shut you out from rebounding, and we're going to get it and go.
Yeah. See, special. Like, all of those things are distinctive. But that leads me to think, like, what's Coach K's thing?
The number one thing, and I know I take a lot of flack for this because I love watching Duke play, and because Duke has won so much like Carolina, people tend to hate on them. But I like Coach K because he's always open to letting his players play. People think that they're, quote unquote, America's college team. They play a certain way. It's a little dirty sometimes. They're system guys. But if you think about the players that have come through Duke under Coach K, He lets them play. I've seen them go down 4 or 5 stretches in a row, and they don't run one play.
Yeah.
They get the ball to the hot hand.
You know, for me, and it's interesting too. I don't like Duke. I'm a North Carolina guy.
You're a North Carolina guy.
But I respect them like immensely for sure. But I always say like Duke doesn't make good pros.
Well,
Like, and let me say this. They have Shane Battier,
stop.
whatever.
This is a message for everybody listening.
Yeah.
It is not a college coach's job to make you a professional basketball player. It's a college coach's job to maximize your athletic potential and to make sure you graduate from college and have a degree. Because you can't be a professional all of your life.
Is that what you telling those kids that go to Kentucky?
You should be.
I'm just saying.
I'm not saying that Calipari...
Because Calipari, when they leave Calipari, I think Calipari got like 25 in there.
That's 25, yes.
But that's killers.
Yes.
25, I might be exaggerating that number, but
yes, he has a lot.
Killers.
He has a lot, even going back to UMass and Memphis.
Yes.
But
different levels.
What people don't talk about are the guys who didn't make it to the pros. So let's talk about them. And because we all know.
We can't talk about them because they don't see them.
That's
all I'm saying. I'm
trying to educate those people who don't know college basketball.
Yeah.
Everybody's not going to the pros. You may have the number 1 recruiting class. Everybody in that recruiting class is not going to the pros each and every time.
I'm just talking about the ones that do get there. I'm saying, and just in comparison, if you see the guys that left Duke and then the ones that left Kentucky, those careers look a little different.
Okay.
But I'll say specifically Calipari, because under Calipari they get a different speech out of him. And I think that does have something to do with we're talking about system and style and the type of players that go to those different places. I think it got something to do with that.
But listen, if you think about it, Duke gets a different type of player than Kentucky most times. A Duke kid is going to be a kid a lot of times that...
Oh, you about to give me the Jalen Rose?
Military kid, two-parent family type situation, a little more, how can I say it, a little more conservative sometimes.
Give me the Jalen Rose.
Yeah, I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, give me the Jalen Rose.
So a lot of players that come to Duke are really good high school players, but they're not projected to be pros sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this. For all the players that have gone to Kentucky in the past, 10 years that Coach Calipari has been there, from day one, you knew that kid could be a pro. It's a little different. Some of the guys that have gone to Duke that have gone to the pros probably shouldn't be in the pros, but they've made careers out of it.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about here?
What I'm saying, I think when I think about system too, I still think about like what came out of that, right? Like it's a certain, like you say, it's a certain type of player that goes to Duke. It's a certain type of player that goes to UNC. It's a certain type of player that goes to, Kentucky.
Right.
I'm saying the type of player besides Kyrie and Jason Tatum.
But a lot of guys from Duke have overachieved. And so I give you a lot of credit when you can get players to overachieve. Just based on your physical stature, your ability, your skill set, and things like that. And you talk about Duke. There's a lot of guys that went to Duke.
I don't even like you saying the name.
I'm just being honest. I gotta give Coach K.
I know. Like I said, Coach K is one of the greatest ever.
I gotta give him credit.
Yeah, for sure.
He's had less number 1 guys than, say, Calipari in that same time span.
He was hating on Calipari for the one and done, too.
Man, they hate on everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, when it affects you, you hate on it. But you can't knock their success.
Absolutely.
So, hey,
never that.
And there's a few things that maybe the average person doesn't know. Well, before you can get your jersey retired at Duke, everybody in your class has to graduate.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of accountability there that I respect.
Yeah, I do too.
So I got to give credit. They're both really great coaches in their own right.
Exceptional. They go that extra mile, which is why they have that long-standing, legendary coach. But like I said, we just talked about 5 different coaches, 4 different coaches that got completely different styles of approaching the game. But every kid that they've come across or the time that they've been at their places, it's been long-standing, it's been transformative, it's been life-changing. So it's just, we want to see some more of that, right?
Right.
Like, so you got some young bulls back home who might be looking like they got a chance to step into the light somewhere.
It's hard to say, only because I've been here so long.
Yeah.
I'm getting, the longer we stay here, the more out of touch I'm getting with what's going on back home.
I think I want to see that. We talked about the grassroots stuff and how that's important, but like Boo Williams is important. That type of energy, and he has a strong connection with all those legendary coaches that we talked about. With that connectivity, that streamlining is important to make sure that our youth are getting what they deserve and what they need to progress. So I want to see that balance. I know you talked about how that grassroots stuff is tough, but for the ones who don't want to stick around for the grassroots, let's find ways to, in this new era, because I think the pendulum is about to switch. You know how things always come back to what it was before? It's about to come back to the fact that we can't do those short contracts with $2 million, 2 years and $15 million and get us to the Elite Eight or whatever else. Like, somebody got to build a program.
Right.
Let that happen. Let that work through. So I want to see that go. That's solid, though. Shout out to all the coaches out there.
Yeah, because now the Coach Ryan is a full-time coach, an entrepreneur.
I'm a businessman.
Okay.
I love the kids, though. I love inspiring and talking. So, coach leading is what I do. Thanks to you guys.
That means you're a coach.
Yeah,
that means you're a coach. Yeah, shout out to all the coaches out there, because there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that some players, some parents, some administrations, some owners, some general managers have no idea what you do.
Absolutely. And they won't understand it until later. I talked about it before about, that slow cooked, marinated overnight, that meal that gotta bake for some time. Mom's gotta wake up a little bit earlier to make the dumplings and the biscuits and things. That meal just tastes a little bit different than the microwave meal.
That's
right. Even the air fryer don't give you that type of love. And I know right now that's the hot commodity. Right. But, it just takes some time. You don't always see those results in the present, but later on. But, I think that's a good place to put it. We're going to give you guys this going into 2021. Oof, it's been a hell of a year, big dog. Like, Uncle Murder and all them and Skills, they're going to do a year wrap up. That's they may have to do a whole album for 2020.
Sure.
But I let you talk about, as we wrap up 2020, we head into 2021. Just let you reflect on the year itself. Like, cause it's important now. I don't even know if you've had, Coach and I talk all the time, but I don't even know if we've really been able to sit and reflect in totality. We reflect about being here, but just reflect in how 2020 started and how we get to this point.
We've been so busy that we've been in a whirlwind the whole time that, reflection has been something that's been basically out of mind right now. But now that we have this moment to talk about some things, 2020 has really, really re-emphasized the fact that you gotta make sure you say to your family, your closest friends, that you're there for them. You guys can lean on each other. You care about one another, and you stay in contact as much as possible. There's no excuse nowadays. There's too many lines of communication that we can at least pop in once a week, whether virtually, in person, or whatever, and just say, what's up? And we need to start doing that. And so that is one thing in 2020 that's made me realize that, I need to do a better job of staying in communication with the people I care about.
Yeah. That's absolutely something that I've been practicing as well. I think for me too, being in a different space, right? Like, Coach and I are 20 years apart, almost, give or take 2 years or so. over or under, whoever, depending on who you're asking. But it's so much about this space in my life that I'm always waking up sometimes and I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm here, right? In this place in the middle. I spent a pandemic, one of the most high-driven emotional times in human history. I spent it away from my family, my friends, my comfort zone, everything, sacrificing some things. And in the midst of all those times and all those moments, I never really felt panic or felt like, there was no way out, or I don't know what it was, but it was a calming feeling while I could see people around were like, scrambling and going to a different place. Because for me, being here, Coach, how we got here, and I'm not crying over here, but
he's choking up.
I've been screaming at kids all week, so it sounds crazy. But for me to be here, straight out of grad school, I was home. I was like 4 months after grad school, didn't even stay home, and go from Harrisonburg, Virginia, right to Dubai. Right, like right at my first real job, like I was trying to go to LA and do some things, and just to leave there and then come here and have the ups and downs and the trials that we had with business, and then as soon as we thought we were figuring it out, pandemic hit, and now we have to focus on just us as humans, and it's a different space there, and meeting different people. It's just been about a moment of appreciating where you are. And taking the time to be present during your opportunity. And then people talk about productivity. And I know that was a big thing during COVID, where people had to feel like they were doing something. And that productivity looks different. Sometimes you just sitting down, relaxing, taking a deep breath, is you being productive for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And like having to learn that, like that pushed me to a different space and different calming, and I think going into 2021, we're equipped with new weapons, new tools that push us in there. And I'm thankful for having you as an anchor for that. So I appreciate that, because we over here, it was just us two.
Yeah,
it was just us two. Like,
hey,
it's a different fire.
For sure.
So we head into 2021 with new relationships, new insight, new energy. Thankful for it, new creativity, and then that inspires us for even more. So thank you guys for tuning in and listening. There's so much more to come. Coach, you got any last, one-liners or your typical coach wrap-up?
Two quick things. The first thing is, are we not going to address what happened in California ball today?
Nah, we can't talk about that.
Okay.
But because it's holiday pack. It's holiday pack.
It's holiday pack. I got you. I just want to make sure that we don't leave 2020 and discuss this.
See, look, this another thing too. The OGs don't understand about how to, curate the content and then, let it sit and put it out in the right moment. Something just happened and he wanted to try. It's coming.
Yeah, because I know you already over it.
It's already up, man. We'll talk about it.
Okay, I'm just saying.
In due time. I'm
just making sure we don't skip it.
No, it's coming.
But what I want to talk about is just real quick. We discussed earlier about being a professional athlete. Don't worry about that. Let's focus on being a professional person. Because we talk about being a professional athlete, that's a very small percentage of people in the world. But being a professional person is something that we all can strive to be. And that's what we want to do each day. Me personally, I'm content with waking up each day and knowing that the day before, I was trying to be the absolute best person I could be. Whether it be in my work life, personal life, or whatever. Encountering somebody new, I just want to make sure that when someone encounters me, that they walk away and say, that is a very nice person, sincere person, and that's a person that I wouldn't mind having a conversation with later on in the future. And so once we start to do that, everybody, I think the world will be a better place. I think you individually will be in a better space.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree too. For me, I'm going to leave this here. I think it's fitting for the time. It's the things that we go through that shape who we are. It's it's about how we decide to react to them that define the way the rest of our life is going to go. Some things we can't control. Some things just are what they are. You know, some people take them as a badge of honor. You know, they're like, look, this is part of me, but it doesn't define me, and they take it to a different space. Some people decide to soak in that moment, but the things we go through, you know, push us to places where we're supposed to be. You decide, you make the definition of what your life is going to look like going forward. So don't let your situation or what you couldn't control define the person that you're going to be or the place that you're going to take in your life. So, Happy New Year, early New Year. Godspeed heading into 2021. We'll meet y'all on the other side. And for the year, that's Bridging the Gap. Tuning out.